Jeez, boy, don't ask tricky questions. So you think the free $1,000 is worth enrolling your children in KiwiSaver for? But is there a catch if they're not contributing? And is it the best thing to do for their financial future? Amanda Morrall examines the fine print. Greetings, lovely to see you.
Hi.
First of all, how many under-18s are enrolled in KiwiSaver, do you know?
So roughly 315,000. That's the latest numbers as of January, so there's probably potentially a few more than that.
Is that what the sort of numbers that they were hoping for? Is it sort of under or over?
I think it's what they were hoping for. It's actually been hugely successful beyond what they anticipated originally, so there's a lot of people who took advantage of that $1,000 to get going.
So on the face of it, is it a good scheme?
That's a hard answer to the question, and it depends where you're coming from. Are you talking about, if you're talking about for your child, I think you need to determine your reason for putting your child in KiwiSaver. Is it for their retirement? That's what it's set out to be. If you're thinking this is a good scheme for your kids' or for education, that's not what it's set out to do, and you're not going to get that money for the kids for their education. So you know you'd be better off going some other savings route if that's your purpose.
Doing your own saving for their education,
that's
but
right,
good for their retirement. So you get $1,000 from the government to start up. How does it work from there? So
normally, if you're working, you get an additional $521 a year from the government and member tax credits, but you're not eligible for that if you're under the age of 18. So basically, all you'll get is that $1,000. It's an incentive for you as a parent to start saving for your child. So it's basically up to you what you're going to do with that money from thereafter. If you're not going to, I mean, and the present situation is that many, the majority, actually vast majority, have just left that money to languish.
So what happens if you do? Obviously, it's going to start getting eaten up by fees, is it not?
That's right. So I think a lot of parents, and you know, easy to understand why they would have just kind of forgotten about it in 3 years.
They just thought, there's $1,000, that's better than nothing, I'll take that, but not worry about it anymore.
That's right, yeah. So 4 years on, take a look, open your statement, see what's going on. I mean, some of the fees on these KiwiSaver schemes are actually pretty high. Some are very reasonable. It's been a really unstable market, so a lot of funds have really gone down in value. You throw in fees on top of that. A lot are below $1,000. Some are above, but the long-term effect of doing that is that you'll slowly see that $1,000 whittled away to nothing. And remember, all those $1,000 kickstarts, over 300,000, really add up. I mean, there's been over 300 million of taxpayers' money put in there. What's going to happen to it?
You talk about the risk. Are there different levels of risk that you can hook yourself up with?
Yep, just like any other fund out there. If you're an adult, you can choose a conservative fund where you know, you can expect to get a lower rate of return. That's not necessarily always the case for less risk, or a higher rate of return. So it really depends on how your particular fund has done. So you kind of need to sort of follow the ball there and see where it's gone.
So if you've got that $1,000 and you haven't contributed any more, do you have the figures as to how long it'll be before you're waving bye-bye to that money?
It really depends, again, on how your fund has performed and what kind of fees are going on there. So there's two factors you need to pay attention to. I had a look at my own two children's funds to see where they were at, because I was a bit concerned that they'd gone down. So they're both at about $1,100 right now, and I put them in back in 2008.
So how much have you been contributing weekly?
Well,
or monthly?
I'm guilty as charged of not contributing anything, which is really, it's kind of a wake-up call for me as well, that because I actually looked at the effect of had I put in $5 a week and where they'd be sitting out. I mean, the rate of return is going to vary over the years, but presuming they're getting the current rate of return, which isn't great, it's very low, so it's conservative, and I threw in $5 extra a week. In 5 years, they'd be looking at about over $2,200, and then 15 years, $4,000. So that's just an extra $5 a year, and I've really, I put in a really low rate of return. If I just left it, and at the present fees that I'm being charged, also the expense fees charged in addition to that, I'd be looking at 15 years down the track of less than $200.
And what would be the point then? I
mean,
essentially,
much point,
you might,
really?
no, because it's just sat there and it's done nothing, and it's gone to almost zero.
That's right.
Okay, so what are some basic tips, would you say, for parents who are perhaps contemplating this for the children, if they've got young ones and they're going to start this off for their retirement? What should they be considering? Yeah,
I guess really question your reasons for enrolling your child beyond just getting that free money, because otherwise it's just a waste of money if you're not going to manage it properly. So if you're thinking in advance about your child's retirement, and that's an important question, there was a study put out this morning that suggested that 63% of New Zealanders feel that themselves aren't saving enough, and they'll have insufficient money in old age. So if you're acting on behalf of your child, so that's a good reason to get them in, but then make the investment beyond that. look at the fees you're being charged. It's a really boring subject, one you'll gloss over, but really, you know, examine that statement closely, ask around, get a comparison so you know what you're being charged, and also take into account the additional expenses you're charged on top of that, because you're not only charged an annual fee, there's a total expense ratio, there's different language used, but it's a percentage of the balance. So that comes out every year.
Geez, they'll fleece you wherever they can.
Well, you know, they're managing your money. If they're doing a good job of it, you'll see that account surge, and compound interest is your friend when you're a kid.
Okay, that is good advice. Amanda, lovely to see you. Thank you so much.